Hello, let's talk about feminine hygiene. So before we get into it, let's just stop and think about the term first. So feminine, for starters, is not very inclusive. If we think about the fact that we've got trans men out there that have a vulva, that have a uterus, that have their menstrual cycles, when they hear the words feminine hygiene, they're not really going to feel like they can relate to it. So we need to just think about that. Then we need to think about this word hygiene. Your vagina is not dirty. The words sanitary products, menstrual hygiene, feminine hygiene all create this idea that there's something dirty that needs to be sanitized or steamed or cleaned or scrubbed, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. We know that the vagina is self-cleaning and there is a natural, normal, healthy balance of lactobacillus within the vagina that is helping to maintain a particular pH between 3.8 and 4.5 in order to protect you. And it's when we disrupt this pH that we are more exposed to pathogens and candida overgrowth or thrush or bacterial vaginosis. So we need to be very mindful of the language that we are using. When we say hygiene or sanitary wear or sanitary products, we are encouraging the idea that something needs to be cleaned and scrubbed, and this cleaning and scrubbing can disrupt your natural vaginal pH. So we've got lactobacillus, which produces lactic acid by utilizing glycogen, and then this lactic acid keeps the vagina acidic. This acidity is protecting the vagina, and your acidity fluctuates through your menstrual cycle because it's going to respond to changes in estrogen, which might be why you might be familiar with an increase in prevalence of thrush just before or just after your menstrual bleeding phase, because this is the phase in which your estrogen is quite low and you're just going to be a little bit more predisposed to bacterial overgrowth if you already had a pre-existing kind of vulnerable microbiome. But before I get distracted, we're talking about feminine hygiene. We need to change the word feminine and we need to think about the word hygiene because it's promoting this idea that everything's dirty, and it's not dirty. Your vulva, your vagina is clean, it's self-cleaning. So what can we use? What can we say? Let's rather think about using menstrual products because that's what they are. Cleaning products because that's what they are. So I hope that kind of gives you the idea of what we're talking about and the potential progression that we need to make as a society with regards to the terms that we use, the language that we use, and the ideas that kind of spring from the language and the language that we use. So I want to first get to talking about I want to talk about Yoni steaming. I have had so many messages about Yoni steaming and about the claims that are made. Is it right? Is it safe? I did a little DIY the other day. I was actually making this desk and I showed a picture of the wood and I said, can you guess what I'm making? And then one of the very first guesses was that I was making a Yoni steaming stool. I was not. So to just start, no, I'm not a fan. I'm not. But before you kind of judge me for saying that, please just hear me out. So there are very many claims about Yoni steaming that we just don't have the research for. We love science. Science is what tells us what works and what doesn't work. And the way in which it does it is by testing one thing on very many people, looking at the outcomes, looking at the risks, looking at the benefits, looking at how exactly we might prescribe something to any person that might need it. So we don't have the research behind Yoni steaming in order to justify the claims that are made. And I've actually been quite saddened by the claims that have been made. And I don't ever do this, but someone forwarded me a post and there was all these claims on there about fertility and menstrual health and hormonal health, and it just went on and on and on, this whole long list. So I commented on that post and I just said, these are very bold claims that you are making. I think that was it that I said. And straight away that person blocked me. They blocked me and they deleted my comment. And that just goes to show, if you've got nothing to justify, and I don't usually do that, but I was just upset by it because I know that there are very many couples out there that have struggled for years and years and years on end with, for example, fertility treatment. And to come across a claim that Yoni steaming is going to resolve that is very misleading, especially since we don't have the research behind it. I know that there are people that have had positive experiences with Yoni steaming, and I'm not discrediting that, I'm not saying that it's not true, but we can potentially try and understand that a little bit better. And because we don't have the research behind it, and if you are a Yoni steaming advocate, please find funding, do the research, tell us exactly what it is that is helping and how we can use this appropriately and effectively. But we don't want these misleading claims that are potentially doing more harm than good. So when we're talking about Yoni steaming, let me just stop for a second. If you don't know what Yoni steaming is, it's when you use a combination of herbs that might have been created by someone, and you pop them in hot water, steaming water, and then you would kind of sit and hover over it and allow the steam to get in and around your vulva and go into your vagina and into your cervix and sometimes into your uterus. These are the claims. We're not supposed to be steaming inside the uterus. The cervix is beautifully shut. Well, it's not shut, it's a very small hole, but we're not meant to be steaming anything and getting any herbs in there anyway. But that's besides the point. Let's try and figure out, why is it that people are having positive experiences? And if you are going to choose to do Yoni steaming, I would want you to be as informed as possible, which is the intention behind pretty much everything that I do. So what is happening? What are the pros? So some of the benefits that you might gain from Yoni steaming is, one, the heat. We know that heat is wonderful with regards to circulation. It's going to help improve relaxation of the tissues, etc. So this might be helping you to relax the tissues, your muscles in and around your pelvis, in order to relieve some of the pain that you might have during menstruation, right? It might be relieving the pain that you have with endometriosis. So that is what the heat is most likely doing for you. But you can potentially do this in a safer way. Have a hot bath, have a hot shower, take a bean bag, wrap it around you, take a hot water bottle, wrap it over your pelvis, and utilize the benefits of heat like that. Number two, the second thing that I think people are gaining benefit from when it comes to Yoni steaming is this dedicated attention. And we cannot disregard the benefits of connection. This might be the period in which you Yoni steam. It might be the very first time that you've ever dedicated 15, 20, 30 minutes to your vulva, to your vagina, to your pelvic region, where you've sat there over the steam and you've thought about your pelvic floor, you've thought about your vulva, you've thought about the period pain or the endometriosis pain, you've thought about your menstrual cycle, you've dedicated time to it. That we can't underestimate connection. You've been connecting, you've been meditating in that Yoni steaming without you realizing. You've been meditating on it, you've been connecting to your pelvic region. And that is incredibly beneficial. I cannot deny that, definitely. But potentially there are safer ways in which to do so. So you might want to meditate, might want to do mobility routines, you might want to educate yourself in and around your vulva. What are the details about it? What is your anatomy, about your menstrual cycle? What stage are you in? Are your symptoms worse now because of X, Y, and Z? Because you are in your late luteal phase, your hormones are fluctuating, your progesterone is dropped, and you are feeling irritable and you're not sleeping very well. Understanding that might be more beneficial for you than sitting over hot steam and meditating in that way. And then another aspect which might be beneficial for you when it comes to Yoni steaming is the fact that you are smelling, I don't know what these things smell like, but I'm assuming that they smell wonderful because there's lots of different herbs and stuff in it. So you are sitting over the steam, you've got the heat and the benefits of heat and circulation, improving tissue function, etc. You are dedicating time and energy into your vulva, your pelvic floor, your menstrual cycle, whatever it is that is your particular concern, and you're smelling beautiful smells, and you're most likely relaxing. We know that a lot of the pelvic floor dysfunction that we treat is because of tissue tension in the pelvis. And if you're dedicating this time, you're smelling beautiful smells, and you're breathing, you're relaxing, you are relaxing those tissues, and that in itself can help to relieve pain. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not a fan of Yoni steaming, but I see some benefits. And what I really want you to take home from this is that you could potentially use very many other means of achieving these different topics that I've just covered right now. So you might want to, like I've said, meditate, you might want to do breath work, you might want to see a professional, you might want to do mobility routines, you want to educate yourself, understand your menstrual cycle, understand your anatomy, understand your fluctuating hormones and what that means for your specific episode of thrush. Like I said, you might have more a high prevalence or high likelihood of having thrush just before your menstrual bleeding phase or just afterwards, because estrogen is particularly low in these phases. So understanding that. So now, because I've discussed the pros of it, and if you choose to do it, go for it. That's your choice. But I want you to have be mindful while you're doing so and understand a few of the pros. And I'm not covering absolutely everything. I'm covering the things that have been brought to my attention many times, and I feel that, well, I've actually, chatted to people very many times about these things, so I wanted to be able to chat to whoever it is that comes across this video. The cons now. So I have seen on different forums and videos, women asking, hey, I've been Yoni steaming and I've noticed, or they've kind of praised this, and they've said, oh, I had all this dirty like slough, so it looked like tissue that came out of my vagina, and that was a wonderful thing. That is burnt tissue. That is burnt. That is you burnt it. If you put your finger on a stove and you burn it, you take it off, the skin is kind of white, or like when you get a blister and you peel that skin off, that is burnt tissue. So that is an injury to your vaginal canal. If you're pulling out tissue, that is an injury to your vaginal canal. And I don't know the state of your body. I don't know if you're keloid. I don't know if you are prone to adhesions, and if you are burning the inside of your vaginal canal, and you are likely to have the type of scarring that causes adhesion and thickness, just think about what that could be doing to the inside of your vagina. So being mindful about that and knowledgeable about that can be really, really beneficial for you. That tissue that is coming out, that's not a good sign. And then a few other things that I've come across is that it will get rid of the dark blood that you get before just the beginning of your cycle, beginning of your menstrual bleeding phase, at the end of menstrual bleeding phase. That's normal. Dark blood is normal. It's just telling you that is the older blood, or that is the dried up blood. Might be the beginning from you might have had a little bit of spotting and it didn't necessarily come out, but when your flow started, it flushed out that little bit of spotting from day one of your period, and it came out as dark blood, which is dry blood. It's fine, that's normal. You don't want to get rid of that. It's part of life. And yeah, so these are the cons. We need to be mindful about what we're putting in our body, and the potential of burns, the potential of just misleading information. Then we want to be mindful of the fact that because this is not kind of a medical product, it's not regulated. So no one is going to that person's kitchen that you've bought from and looking at the products. Where have they where did they come from? Are they using pesticides? How were they farmed? Where were they stored? Is there any mold on them? Have they been dried appropriately? What combination is getting put together? Is that combination safe for you as an individual? We don't know, because it is not regulated. So these are things to be mindful of. As I've said, you make your own decisions, but I would want you to have as much information as possible, and these are the basics. So we need to be cautious of the pros and the cons, and the way and the products that we are using. So that aside, Please don't attack me for not being a fan of Yoni Steaming. I also have my own opinions, and my intention is just to bring across as much information as I possibly can, and I'll touch again on this at the end. The next thing I want to talk about is vaginal washes or intimate washes. So now when it comes to intimate washes, just the wording, intimate, it makes you really think you got to get in there. So we don't want to get in there. So we just need to be mindful of this. And once again, the ingredients in these washes, they might be disrupting the vaginal pH and then causing a high likelihood of something like thrush. And then you get thrush, and then you get this increase in vaginal discharge, and you think, oh, it's dirty because society has told me my vagina is dirty, and then you wash some more, and we just get this cycle of washing and disrupting and dysbiosis. So when it comes to vaginal washes, if you are needing to clean your vagina when you're washing and bathing at night, all you need is warm water. So you can take, so this is your vulva, these are your labia minora, and that's your vestibule there. You don't have the labia majora on the outside. When you're washing in the bath or in the shower, you just take warm water, you take your fingers, and you can go on the inside and outside of those labia minora. Done. Easy peasy. But what I do want to bring up is that sometimes we might be using oil-based lubes. You might be into some kind of kink where there is wax or there is chocolate syrup or something. We don't want that going inside the vagina, but I understand that there might be stuff that does need to get washed off, and you do need some kind of soap. So in that instance, you can buy a soap, a bar of soap that is color-free, fragrance-free. You don't want like beads and all sorts of funny other oils, whatever. Just plain bar of soap, really simple bar. Those types that they kind of say are friendly for babies. Usually it's a transparent bar of soap, and you can use that kind of very mild soap to just once again washing in between the vulva and around, making sure that you are clean, and just being mindful that depending on how sensitive you are, any soap that is washing down your body and running over your body might be irritating that vulvar tissue. So the next thing I want to speak about in that, just kind of on that same mind frame, is shampoo. So if you are specifically irritable, and if you are specifically prone to infection, and you've tried everything under the sun, it might be that the shampoo running down your body, or your body wash, or your glittery, sparkly, glittery gel, whatever, is running down your body, that is irritating this vaginal tissue and your vulva tissue and your vaginal pH. So just be mindful of that. And if you need to, you might want to rather wash your hair kind of to the side, or you might want to flick it over and have the water run down there as opposed to over your body. Then the other thing I want to talk about is bath bombs and bath salts. Now we all love a good bath soak, relaxing in a beautiful bomb that's kind of bubbling up in beautiful colors, etc. That's fantastic. But now think about the fact that you are sitting and soaking in it. You're not just having this stuff run over you. You're sitting and soaking in a bath with bath bombs or bubble bath or whatever it may be. So you also please be mindful about this when it comes to children. And especially little girls, that they are sitting and just soaking in this bath bomb, and the ingredients in there might be irritable for you. So what you would want to do is, when you're finished with your bath, jump up out of the bath, use some clean water, make sure you're getting in between the vulva, and that when you're jumping out the bath, just be mindful of the symptoms that follow. So you might say, I've had a really stressful time in my life right now. I have had a bath bomb every single night because I got gifted a bunch of them, and now I've got thrush. We need to be mindful in the fact that now that you are informed, you can put those two things together, and instead of thinking that they're completely dissociated from one another, you might say, oh, okay, no wonder I've had thrush. I've been soaking in ingredients in a bath for the last couple of nights, and I think that's irritated my vulvar tissue. So that's something really to be mindful of. I always say, if you don't want to put it in your mouth and if you don't want to put it in your eyes, then please don't put it in your vagina, because it's not going to like it. Your eyes wouldn't like steaming, etc. So with this said, all of this said, with the Yoni steaming, with the washes, with lubes that you use, with bath bombs, with bath salts, they all have their pros and they all have their cons, right? But what I really want to bring to your attention is that everybody is different. You might have used all of these things every day of your life and never had an issue, but we all have different responses to different ingredients, and we can't, because there's no research, we can't extrapolate your one person experience, or you and your friend, we can't extrapolate that to absolutely everyone. So we just need to be mindful of the fact that I might be super sensitive to a specific wash or a specific shampoo, and that might cause irritation for me. I want you to be mindful and knowledgeable enough to put those two things together and know where the change needs to be made. So just be mindful that we all have different sensitivities and we all have different responses to these ingredients, especially even if there is research done, we all respond differently. So we just need to be mindful of that, and please don't say, okay, this worked for me in this way, so it will do the exact same thing for you, because we don't know that, and it's unfair to the person that might have had a lifelong struggle with thrush or fertility, etc. So I hope that you find this helpful. We've got feminine hygiene and how the wording might be just offensive for some people, and might be just a little bit misleading with regards to feeling like you need to get in there and clean and scrub. And then we spoke about the different ideas, the different marketing kind of, I don't know, things that have come up in response to this. And people they want to make money, so they will say, they'll kind of harp on it and make you feel like your vagina is dirty. Your vagina isn't dirty, and it doesn't need to smell like roses or Turkish delight. Well, I love Turkish delight, I want to eat it, I don't want my vagina to smell like it, or strawberries or whatever. So we just need to be mindful of the words that we use, and we need to make informed decisions when we are deciding if we are going to Yoni steam, if we are going to use bath bombs, if we are going to do etc. And please just bring your attention to the fact that everyone is different, everyone has different sensitivities. You might be fine to have one bath bomb a week, but the moment you have 2 bath bombs a week, oh, now I'm starting to get thrush. So bath bombs are great. I'm not discrediting any of these things. I'm just saying make an informed decision, and I want you to be informed to the point where you can put the 2 circumstances together. So I hope you find that helpful. You can please subscribe. I will do more of these types of videos. I have an Instagram page called @nurtureyourbvagina. I'm trying to figure out Twitter, and what else is there? There's Facebook. Nurture Pelvic Floor Physio, that's a physiotherapy side of things. Facebook don't like the word vagina, so I haven't used that there. So yeah, enjoy and have a fantastic day and making informed decisions.